Jack woke to a soft chiming sound. The walls of his room had changed from dark to a gentle blue, mimicking a morning sky. He checked the strange watch-like device the ambassador had given each of them. It showed both Earth time and station time. According to the device, it was 7 a.m. station time, and their first class began at 8:30. He found the others already in the common area. Eric was trying to figure out how to use what seemed to be a food dispenser, while Kate and Olivia examined their class schedules on their tablets. "Has anyone figured out breakfast yet?" Jack asked, his stomach rumbling. "I think I've got it," Eric said, pressing a panel. A section of the wall slid open, revealing trays of food. Some looked almost like Earth foods, fruits, something like bread, a paste that might be similar to oatmeal. Other items were completely unfamiliar, with strange colors and textures. They cautiously tried the food. The fruit was sweet but had an odd aftertaste. The bread-like substance had the texture of a sponge but tasted surprisingly good. "The schedule says our physical adaptation training is first," Olivia said, looking at her tablet. "It's in something called the Environmental Simulation Chamber." "There's a map," Kate added. "It's not far from here." After finishing breakfast, they changed into the uniforms they'd found in their rooms, form-fitting suits in gray with blue trim. The material was strange, almost like a second skin adjusting to their body temperature. They followed the map through the station's corridors. Other students were heading the same way, most giving the humans curious looks. One being that resembled a blue octopus floated past them on what appeared to be a small anti-gravity platform. "I feel like we're in a zoo," Kate whispered. The environmental simulation chamber turned out to be an enormous room, bigger than any gym they had seen on Earth. The ceiling was at least 30 feet high, and the walls and floor seemed to be made of some kind of material that could change its appearance. Right now it looked like a standard gymnasium floor. About 50 students from various species had gathered. Some stood on 2 legs like humans, others on 4 or more. A few didn't seem to have legs at all, hovering or sliding along the floor. The room fell silent as a large door at the far end opened. Through it came a being that could only be Professor Growlthok. He was at least 7 feet tall, with 4 muscular arms and a body covered in green-brown scales. His head was reptilian, with 6 yellow eyes arranged in a circle pattern. He wore what looked like armor on his chest and moved with surprising grace for his size. "Welcome to Physical Adaptation Training 1001, the professor's voice boomed across the chamber. "I am Professor Growlthok." His 6 eyes scanned the room, pausing briefly on the 4 humans. "This course has never been completed with a perfect score in the Academy's 3,000-year history. It is designed to push you beyond your physiological limits." A holographic display appeared in the air above them, showing various species names and statistics. The humans noticed their species wasn't even on the chart. "Today we begin with basic assessments," Professor Growlthok continued. "We will test your capabilities in standard gravity conditions before moving on to specialized environments. The first challenge was simple, a 5-kilometer run in standard gravity." The 4 humans looked at each other confused. This was supposed to be hard? "The course will adapt to each species' natural movement speed," the professor explained. "The goal is to maintain your optimal pace for the full distance." The running track appeared on the floor, glowing lines marking the path. Students lined up at the starting point. Jack, who had run track in high school, felt confident. Kate, who regularly climbed mountains for fun, wasn't worried either. Even Eric and Olivia, with their athletic backgrounds, considered this an easy start. When the signal sounded, they began to run. Almost immediately, they noticed something strange. Most of the alien students were moving with obvious strain. Some species with multiple legs had advantages in speed, but many were struggling with the distance. Jack set a comfortable pace, one he could maintain easily for 5 kilometers. To his surprise, he soon found himself near the front of the pack. Kate was right behind him. Eric and Olivia weren't far behind either. Jack crossed the finish line first, barely winded. Kate finished seconds later. A 6-legged insect-like being came in third, followed by Eric and then Olivia. Professor Growlthok's scales shifted color slightly. Interesting, he said, making notes on a tablet. Earth specimen Jack Miller has set a new class record for the 5-kilometer assessment. The professor's use of specimen bothered Jack, but he was too surprised by the results to comment. How had he set a record with what felt like a moderate effort? The next challenge was grip strength. Students took turns squeezing a device that measured force. Again, the humans performed well above expectations, with Eric setting a new class record. Your species uses its upper limbs for both fine manipulation and strength-based tasks, Professor Gralthok observed. Most species specialize in one or the other. Challenge after challenge followed. Flexibility tests, where Olivia excelled, reaction time tests, where all 4 humans scored in the top 10, balance exercises on shifting platforms, which Kate dominated thanks to her climbing experience. By the end of the class, the 4 friends had scored in the top percentile of every challenge. The other students were giving them a mixture of curious, impressed, and somewhat alarmed looks. "I don't understand," whispered a gelatinous student named Neex's Tal as they filed out of the chamber. "You're from a death world. Shouldn't you be adapted for survival rather than physical prowess?" "I guess on Earth physical prowess is survival," Eric replied with a shrug. In the corridor outside, they were approached by a tall, thin being with feather-like growths covering its body. "Hello, Earth students, I am Pelix from the mathematics department. Your performance was most impressive." "Thanks," Jack said. "But honestly, none of those tests seemed very difficult to us." Pelix's feathers rustled in what might have been surprise. "The standard assessment is calibrated to challenge the average Confederation citizen. The fact that you found it easy is significant." As they walked back to their quarters, they noticed other students pointing at them and whispering. "I think we just became celebrities," Kate said, half joking. "Or lab rats," Olivia added. "Did you see how Professor Gralthok was watching us? Like we were some kind of experiment." Back in their common room, they compared notes on their experience. "Something's not adding up," Jack said. "They keep treating us like we're fragile because we come from a death world, but we just outperformed most of the class in physical tests. Maybe that's why they're interested in us," Eric suggested. "We evolved in harsh conditions by their standards, which made us tougher than they expected." A message appeared on their information tablets. "Professor." Gralthok requested their presence in his office immediately. "Here we go," Olivia sighed. "Time to find out what this is really about." As they headed to the professor's office, they passed a window looking out into space. In the distance, Earth was a tiny blue dot, impossibly far away, yet somehow closer than ever before. Whatever happened next, they knew they were making history, the first humans to represent Earth in the galactic community. And it had started with a gym class. Jack Miller stared out the small round window of what he could only describe as a spaceship. The stars looked different from up here, brighter and more numerous than he had ever seen from Earth. Just yesterday, he had been in his small apartment, near the university, working on his astrophysics thesis. Now he was somewhere beyond Earth's orbit, abducted along with 3 other humans by aliens. "I still can't believe this is happening," said Kate Ross from the seat beside him. She ran her fingers through her short brown hair, a nervous habit she'd had since high school. Kate was an avid rock climber when she wasn't studying environmental science. "Yeah, well, believe it," Eric Davis replied, his deep voice echoing in the metal chamber. Eric was a large man, his football background evident in his broad shoulders and confident posture. "Those are definitely not humans flying this thing." Olivia Garcia, who sat quietly examining a strange device she had found in one of the compartments, looked up. "I've been trying to understand their language. Some of the symbols seem to repeat in patterns." As a former gymnast with a background in communications, Olivia was always analyzing, always observing. The door to their chamber slid open with a soft hiss. A tall, willowy being with skin that shimmered like mother of pearl stepped into the room. The alien had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, but that's where the similarities to humans ended. Its eyes were large, almond-shaped, and a vivid purple. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from somewhere in its chest rather than its mouth. "Greetings, Earth specimens. I am Ambassador Zix Voon of the Galactic Confederation. Your journey is nearly complete. We will dock with the Celestial Harmony in approximately 20 Earth minutes. Jack stood up, trying to appear calm despite his racing heart. Ambassador, with all due respect, specimens isn't the right word. We're people, not lab samples. The alien's skin changed color slightly, shifting to a pale blue. Apologies, Earth. People. Your language is still new to our translation systems. The ambassador paused. You four have been selected as the first exchange students from your planet to attend the Interstellar Academy. Selected? Eric asked, crossing his arms. More like kidnapped. Ambassador Zix Voon's skin rippled with what might have been embarrassment. The Confederation Council felt a direct approach was best. Your world leaders are not yet aware of our existence. We discovered Earth only recently and classified it as a Class 12 death world. A what? Kate asked. A death world? A planet so harsh and dangerous that most galactic species consider it nearly uninhabitable. The ambassador's tone held a mix of fear and fascination. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, dangerous radiation levels from your sun, toxic oxygen-rich atmosphere, aggressive predators, frequent natural disasters. Your species has evolved in conditions that would kill most sentient beings in the Confederation. The four humans exchanged confused glances. Earth had its challenges, sure, but it was the only home they'd known. It had never occurred to them that it might be considered extreme by other standards. We are curious about how Deathworlders like yourselves have developed intelligence despite such harsh conditions, the ambassador continued. The Academy provides an ideal controlled environment for such studies. A slight shudder ran through the ship as it slowed. Through the window, Jack could see they were approaching an enormous structure that resembled a spinning wheel in space, with spokes connecting to a central hub. That's the Celestial Harmony, Ambassador Zix Voon explained. Home to the Interstellar Academy and temporary headquarters of the Confederation Diplomatic Corps. After docking, the humans were led through corridors filled with beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors. Some had multiple limbs, others moved on what looked like clouds of gas. A few appeared almost human from a distance, but revealed startling differences up close. Skin made of fine scales or eyes that blinked sideways. The ambassador took them to a section of the station where the gravity, temperature, and air composition had been adjusted to match Earth conditions. These will be your quarters during your stay. The academy semester begins tomorrow. You'll find information tablets in your rooms with orientation materials and basic rules of the Confederation. Before leaving, Zix Voon turned to them. One more thing. All students at the academy are required to take physical adaptation training regardless of their main area of study. It's essential for understanding different species' capabilities and limitations. Physical training? Olivia asked. Like gym class? Yes, though much more scientifically structured. The ambassador's skin took on a sympathetic pink hue. Don't worry about the physical requirements. Accommodations will be made for your limitations. After the ambassador left, the four friends explored their new living space. It consisted of 4 private sleeping rooms connected to a common area with furniture that adjusted itself to the sitter's body shape. The walls could become transparent to show the stars outside or display information and images. Did anyone else notice how they keep talking about our limitations? Eric asked as he tested a chair that molded itself to his back. Kate nodded. They think we're fragile because we come from a death world, but compared to some of those aliens we saw, we seem pretty sturdy. Jack was scrolling through the information tablet he'd found in his room. It says here the physical adaptation training is taught by someone named Professor Grail Thok, a 4-armed reptilian from a high-gravity planet. Apparently he's famous for his demanding training program. Great, Olivia sighed. Kidnapped by aliens, and now we have to take alien gym class with a lizard drill sergeant. Look at it this way, Jack said with a grin. A few days ago, we were just ordinary college students. Now we're the first humans to set foot on an alien space station and attend an interstellar school. If we do well, we could change how the entire galaxy views Earth. Eric laughed. No pressure or anything. That night, none of them slept much. They took turns looking out at the stars, trying to spot Earth and wondering what tomorrow would bring. They had been chosen, for better or worse, to represent humanity to the galaxy, and it would start with gym class. As Jack finally drifted off to sleep, he couldn't help but smile at the absurdity of it all. Whoever these aliens were, they clearly had no idea what humans were capable of. Maybe being from a death world wasn't such a bad thing after all. Tomorrow, they would begin to find out. Professor Growlthock's office was smaller than they expected. One wall was covered with screens showing what looked like training data and student performances. Another wall displayed various objects that might have been trophies or awards. The professor sat behind a desk made of a material that resembled metal, but felt warm to the touch. "Sit," he said, pointing to 4 chairs that adjusted themselves as the humans approached. Jack, Kate, Eric, and Olivia sat down, exchanging nervous glances. The professor's 6 yellow eyes studied them one by one. "Your performance today was unexpected," he finally said. "I have taught at this academy for 97 cycles. In that time, I have never seen a newly discovered species perform so well on their first assessment." "Is that a problem?" Jack asked cautiously. "No, it is interesting." Professor Growlthock brought up a holographic display showing their test results. "According to our initial scans, your species has no special adaptations, no extra limbs, no enhanced senses, no natural armor or weapons. Yet you outperformed species with specific evolutionary advantages." "We're just normal humans," Kate said. "Nothing special about us." "That is precisely what makes you special," the professor replied. His scales shifted to a deeper green. "Most species evolve specific traits for their environments. Aquatic species develop gills and fins. High-gravity species develop strong bones and muscles but sacrifice speed. Low-gravity species are often agile but fragile," he pointed at them. "You Deathworlders seem to be generalists." "What does that mean for our training?" Eric asked. "It means," Professor Growlthock said, "that I will not be making the accommodations Ambassador Zix Voon suggested. Instead, I will push you to your limits. Tomorrow we begin specialized environmental training. We shall see how well you adapt." After leaving the professor's office, the humans found themselves the center of attention as they walked through the academy corridors. Other students watched them pass, some moving aside as if fearful. "This is getting weird," Olivia whispered. "They're looking at us like we're dangerous." In the dining hall, they got even more stares. As they looked for a place to sit with their trays of food, most tables seemed to fill up suddenly. Finally, they spotted Pellix, the feathered mathematician, waving them over. "Join me, Earth students," Pellix called. "I have many questions about your world." They sat down at Pellix's table, where a few other students were already eating. One was the blue octopus-like being they had seen earlier, who introduced himself as Zrill. Another was a small, furry creature with large eyes named Mip. "Is it true that your planet has areas where water falls from the sky as a solid?" Pellix asked, feathers quivering with excitement. "You mean snow?" "Yes, in colder regions," Jack explained. "And you survive this?" Mip asked, eyes widening. "Of course," Kate said. "We wear warmer clothes, build heated shelters. It's not that big a deal." "What about your oceans?" Zrill asked, his tentacles moving fluidly as he spoke. "I heard they contain large predators with multiple rows of teeth." "Sharks?" Eric nodded. "Yeah, but they rarely attack humans." The alien students exchanged looks of disbelief. "What's the normal gravity on your world?" Pellix asked, taking notes on a small device. "About 9.8 meters per second squared," Jack answered. The entire table fell silent. "That's nearly twice the Confederation average," Zrill said finally. "No wonder you move the way you do." As they continued eating and answering questions, they noticed a group of students at a nearby table watching them with less friendly expressions. One in particular, a muscular being with gray rock-like skin, seemed especially displeased. "That's Draxfor," Pellix whispered, noticing their attention. "He's from a heavy metal planet called Vordaria. Before you arrived, he held many of the physical records in your class. He doesn't look happy about losing them, Eric observed. Vordarians value physical prowess above all else, Pelix explained. Your success has challenged his status. The next day, word had spread throughout the academy about the surprisingly athletic Deathworlders. When they arrived at the environmental simulation chamber for their second day of training, they found the observation area filled with students and even a few teachers from other departments. Great, Olivia muttered. Now we're a sideshow. Professor Grelthok seemed pleased by the audience. Today we test adaptability to extreme environments, he announced. We begin with low oxygen conditions. The chamber's atmosphere began to change. Many students started using breathing devices, but the professor waved the humans away when they reached for theirs. Earth's atmosphere has high oxygen content, he explained. This level should be challenging but manageable for you without assistance. The exercise involved completing an obstacle course while the air grew progressively thinner. The humans found it difficult but not impossible, like exercising at high altitude. They finished in the middle of the pack, a less dominant performance than the day before, but still impressive given the conditions. Next came a cold environment test. The chamber temperature dropped rapidly, frost forming on the walls. Special thermal suits were provided, but they were designed for alien physiologies and didn't fit the humans well. Maintain core temperature while completing tasks, Professor Grelthok instructed. Kate excelled here, her experience with mountain climbing in cold conditions proving valuable. She showed the others how to keep moving to generate heat and how to protect their extremities. Throughout the day, they faced more specialized tests: underwater obstacle courses, zero-gravity navigation, extreme heat endurance. While they didn't dominate these specialized environments, Olivia nearly failed the underwater challenge and Eric struggled in zero gravity. Their adaptability allowed them to achieve passing scores where many specialized species couldn't. After class, they were approached by Draxvor, the Vordarian student. Up close, his skin looked like polished granite with veins of what might have been actual metal running through it. Deathworlders, he said, his voice deep and rumbling. Your performance is acceptable. Thanks, Jack replied, unsure if it was a compliment. On my world, strength determines status, Draxvor continued. I challenge your strongest to a test of power. Eric stepped forward. What kind of test? Traditional Vordarian wrestling, Draxvor answered. No weapons, no injuries, only dominance. Before Eric could respond, Professor Grelthok appeared beside them. There will be no unauthorized competitions, he said firmly. Save your energy for tomorrow's adaptability circuit. Draxvor bowed slightly to the professor and walked away, but not before giving Eric a look that clearly said the challenge wasn't forgotten, merely postponed. What's the adaptability circuit? Kate asked the professor. A more complex challenge, Professor Grelthok replied. Most specialized species excel in their native conditions but fail when environments shift rapidly. Tomorrow we test how quickly you can adjust to changing conditions. As they returned to their quarters that evening, Jack pulled up data about different species on his tablet. I think I'm starting to understand, he said to the others. Most of these aliens evolved in very specific environments with narrow parameters. They're highly specialized, which makes them great at some things but terrible at others. And humans? Olivia asked. We're the ultimate generalists, Jack replied. Earth has so many different environments. Deserts, oceans, mountains, forests, and they all change with seasons. We evolved to adapt rather than specialize. So being from a death world is actually an advantage? Eric asked. For this kind of training, yes, Jack nodded. But tomorrow will be the real test. Let's see how well we can adapt when everything keeps changing. That night, each of them prepared in their own way. Kate practiced breathing exercises. Eric did strength training using the furniture in his room. Olivia stretched and worked on her flexibility. Jack reviewed what they'd learned about different environments. None of them knew what challenges awaited them the next day, but they were determined to show the galaxy what humans could do. The next morning, the environmental simulation chamber was packed with spectators. Students and teachers from across the academy, had come to watch the humans take on the adaptability circuit. Even Ambassador Zixfoon was present, her iridescent skin shifting between shades of blue and green with what might have been excitement or anxiety. Today's challenge is simple in concept, difficult in execution, Professor Growlthok announced. The chamber will cycle through 12 different environments. Each lasts exactly 5 minutes. You must complete specific tasks in each environment before it changes. Failure to complete a task before the environment shifts results in disqualification. The professor pointed to a scoreboard on the wall. In the Academy's history, no student has completed all 12 environments in a single session. The record is 9, set by myself as a student 75 cycles ago. Jack, Kate, Eric, and Olivia exchanged determined looks. They had discussed strategy the night before, agreeing to work as a team whenever possible. The circuit begins in 1 minute, Professor Growlthok said. Prepare yourselves. The first environment was a desert setting. The temperature rose rapidly and the air became dry. Sand covered the floor, making movement difficult. Their task was to cross from one side of the chamber to the other, while carrying containers of water without spilling them. Pace yourselves, Jack advised, remembering his marathon training. It's going to be a long challenge. They completed the desert crossing with 2 minutes to spare. Jack noticed several other students already struggling with the heat and dry air. The chamber shifted suddenly. The sand disappeared, replaced by a thick jungle environment. Humidity soared, and strange plants grew rapidly from the floor. Their new task was to collect 5 different colored fruits hidden among the dense vegetation. Olivia took the lead here, her smaller size and agility allowing her to move easily between the plants. With her guidance, they found all 5 fruits just as the timer reached 0. The third environment was an Arctic setting. The temperature plummeted, ice formed on the walls, and snow fell from above. They had to build a small shelter using blocks of ice. Like this, Kate instructed, showing them how to stack the ice blocks in a stable pattern. Her mountain climbing experience proved invaluable as they completed the shelter with a minute to spare. Environment after environment challenged different aspects of their physiology and problem-solving skills. A high-gravity setting made every movement exhausting. Eric's strength kept them moving when the others began to falter. By the 6th environment, a swamp with poisonous gas that required them to use breathing equipment, several alien students had been disqualified. Draxvor remained, his rocky body handling the physical strains well, but even he was showing signs of fatigue. Halfway there, Jack encouraged his friends as they entered the 7th environment, a zero-gravity chamber filled with floating obstacles. This proved especially challenging for the humans who had no natural experience with zero gravity. Olivia adapted quickest, using her gymnastics training to control her movements. Push off gently, she advised. Think of it like swimming through air. They completed the task with seconds to spare. As they moved to the 8th environment, an underwater setting, Jack noticed that only 6 students remained in the competition, including the 4 humans and Draxvor. The underwater environment was Kate's weakness. She had never been a strong swimmer, and the pressure of the deep water simulation made her anxious. I don't think I can do this one, she admitted as they entered the water. Yes, you can, Eric said firmly. Follow my movements, slow, steady breaths through the breathing apparatus. We'll stay together. With Eric's encouragement and Jack helping to guide her through the underwater maze, Kate managed to complete the challenge, though they had only 10 seconds remaining when they found the exit. As they entered the 9th environment, a chamber filled with fluctuating electromagnetic fields that disrupted their sense of balance, Jack noticed that Draxvor had fallen behind. The Vordarian's metallic body was particularly susceptible to the electromagnetic interference. He's not going to make it, Olivia whispered as they watched Draxvor struggling to stand. To their surprise, Eric went back to the Vordarian and offered his hand. Come on, he shouted over the humming of the fields. We can finish this together. Draxvor looked shocked, but accepted the help. Together, the 5 of them completed the 9th challenge just as the timer expired. The 10th environment was the most difficult yet, rapidly alternating gravity that shifted direction every 30 seconds. The chamber seemed to rotate around, Them floor becoming wall, then ceiling, then wall again. Focus on a fixed point, Jack called out, using a technique he'd learned while training for track to combat dizziness. And grab something solid before each shift. Even with their teamwork, this challenge pushed them to their limits. Kate nearly fell during one gravity shift, saved only by Draxfor's quick reflexes as he caught her arm. They completed the 10th task with just 5 seconds to spare. As they entered the 11th environment, a chamber with extremely thin air and cold temperatures that simulated high altitude, Professor Growlthok announced that they had just broken the Academy record. The crowd of spectators erupted in cheers, and strange alien sounds that must have been their version of applause. 2 more, Jack gasped, his lungs burning from the thin air. We can do this. The high-altitude environment tested their endurance to the breaking point. Even Eric, the strongest of the group, was struggling to move. Their task was to reach the summit of a simulated mountain and plant a flag. With less than a minute remaining, they reached the top together. Draxvor, who had been falling behind, was pulling himself up the final few meters. Together, Eric said, offering the flag to the Vordarian. You and us. Show them what cooperation can achieve. Draxvor looked at the humans, his expression unreadable on his stone-like face. Then, he took the flag and planted it firmly at the summit just as the timer reached 0. As they entered the 12th and final environment, the spectator area had fallen completely silent. No one had ever reached this stage before, not even Professor Growlthok. The chamber transformed into what looked like the surface of an alien world. The air became thick and heavy, gravity increased slightly, and strange, swirling patterns of light moved across the ceiling. Your final task, Professor, Growlthok's voice announced, is to reach the center of the chamber and retrieve the medallion of completion. But beware, the path will be different for each of you, and only one can claim the medallion. The floor of the chamber split into 5 different paths, each leading toward the center where a glowing object hovered in mid-air. What do we do? Olivia asked. Only one of us can finish? Jack looked at his friends, then at Draxivor. After coming this far together, competing against each other felt wrong. I have an idea, he said, but it might mean none of us wins. Jack quickly explained his idea to the others. They nodded in agreement, even Draxvor, though the Vordarian seemed confused by their plan. Are you certain? Draxvor asked. On my world, victory belongs to the strongest individual. On Earth, Eric replied, we've learned that sometimes the strongest individual is the one who helps others succeed. They each took their separate paths toward the center. The paths were different for each of them. Jack faced sections where the gravity increased to 3 times Earth normal, making each step a struggle. Kate encountered narrow ledges over what appeared to be bottomless pits, testing her climbing skills and balance. Eric's path was blocked by heavy barriers that required all his strength to move. Olivia had to navigate a complex maze that changed configuration every few seconds. Draxvor's path was perhaps the most difficult, with sections that seemed designed specifically to challenge a Vordarian's weaknesses, electromagnetic fields that interfered with the metallic elements in his body, and hot, steamy areas that made his rock-like skin crack and weaken. The 5 of them reached the center platform almost simultaneously. In the middle floated the medallion of completion, glowing with a soft blue light. According to the rules, only one could claim it and complete the circuit. Now, Jack said. Instead of competing for the medallion, they formed a circle around it, each extending one hand toward it but not touching it. Then at Jack's signal, they all reached for it together, their hands meeting in the middle. A loud buzzer sounded throughout the chamber. Professor Growlthok's voice came over the speakers. Invalid completion attempt. Only one student may claim the medallion. No, Jack called out, speaking to the professor and the watching crowd. That wasn't specified in the rules. You said, only one can claim the medallion, but you didn't say we couldn't try to claim it together. There was silence for a moment. Then Professor Growlthok himself entered the chamber, walking directly through one of the walls as if it were just a projection. Perhaps it was. In 3,000 years, he said, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence, No student has questioned the final challenge. It was designed to test not just physical ability, but the choices you make when faced with individual success versus group failure. Where we come from, Kate said, we've learned that sometimes the hardest challenges can only be overcome together, even if it means no one gets individual credit, the professor asked. Even then, Jack nodded. Professor Growlthok was silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, a sound like grinding stones came from him. Laughter. The final challenge was never about the medallion, he said. It was about discovering the lesson of the circuit. Some challenges cannot be overcome by even the most exceptional individual. Some require, he seemed to search for the right word, cooperation. The medallion suddenly split into 5 identical pieces, each floating toward one of them. In 3,000 years, Professor Growlthok announced, no student or group of students has completed all 12 environments of the adaptability circuit. Today that changes. Today we have 5 graduates. The chamber walls disappeared, revealing the crowd of spectators who erupted in cheers and strange alien sounds of approval. Ambassador Zixvoon approached, her skin now a bright, happy pink. This is unprecedented, she said, her voice filled with wonder. You've shown us something we didn't expect from Deathworlders. Not just physical resilience, but wisdom. In the days that followed, the story of the humans who completed the adaptability circuit spread throughout the celestial harmony and beyond. Draxvor became their unlikely friend, often joining them for meals and explaining aspects of Confederation, culture they didn't understand. One evening, as they sat in their common room, a message appeared on their tablets. It was from Ambassador Zixvoon, requesting their presence in the Confederation Council chamber the next morning. That doesn't sound like a normal class assignment, Olivia said nervously. They arrived at the council chamber to find it filled with representatives from dozens of different species. Ambassador Zixvoon led them to seats at the front. The Confederation Council has been watching your progress with great interest, she explained. Your success in the adaptability circuit has changed perspectives. A tall, ethereal being who seemed to be made of light rather than solid matter floated to the center of the chamber. I am High Counselor Alara, the being said in a voice like chiming bells. On behalf of the Galactic Confederation, I wish to address the representatives of Earth. Jack, Kate, Eric, and Olivia exchanged nervous glances. Representatives of Earth? They were just college students. When we discovered your world, High Counselor Alara continued, we classified it as a Class 12 death world. We assumed its inhabitants would be primitive, perhaps even savage, having spent their evolutionary history merely surviving rather than advancing. The High Counselor's light form shifted to a warmer color. We were wrong. You have shown us that the challenging conditions of your world did not stunt your development. They enhanced it. You have demonstrated physical capabilities that rival our specialists, adaptability that exceeds our expectations, and most importantly, a commitment to cooperation that we did not anticipate. Ambassador Zixvoon stepped forward. The Council has voted to extend an offer of full membership to Earth in the Galactic Confederation, effective immediately. This is unprecedented for a newly discovered world. But we're just students, Kate said. We don't have the authority to accept on behalf of Earth. Of course, the High Counselor acknowledged. A diplomatic team will be assembled to make official contact with your world leaders. But you 4 will serve as the first official ambassadors of humanity to the Confederation. Your experiences here, your success in what was considered our most challenging test, has opened a door that might otherwise have remained closed for centuries. All because of gym class, Eric whispered, and they all fought to hold back their laughter. 3 months later, they stood on the observation deck of the Celestial Harmony, watching as the first official diplomatic shuttle from Earth docked with the station. Earth's governments had reacted with shock, then excitement at the revelation that humans were not alone in the universe. Do you think they'll adapt as well as we did? Olivia asked as they watched Earth's diplomats and scientists preparing to disembark. They'll have to, Jack replied. This is just the beginning. Professor Growlthok joined them at the window. In the months since their success, he had become something of a mentor to them, helping them understand their new roles as bridges between Earth and the Confederation. "Your world faces many challenges in joining the galactic community," he said. "But if your people share your adaptability and spirit of cooperation, I believe Earth will not just survive in the Confederation, it will thrive." "And all because some aliens kidnapped a few college students for gym class," Kate said with a smile. "Not kidnapped," Professor Growlthok corrected. "Selected, perhaps more wisely than we knew." As Earth's representatives took their first steps onto the station, Jack thought about how far they had come, from confused abductees to record-breaking students to ambassadors for humanity, and their journey was just beginning. "Ready?" he asked his friends. "Ready," they replied together. And with that, they went forward to welcome their fellow humans to the stars, prepared to show them that in the vastness of the galaxy, humanity's greatest strength wasn't their physical abilities or even their adaptability. It was their willingness to reach out a hand to others and face the unknown together. The end.